Hi, this is Nate Armstrong from Calhoun Ventures. I'm going to walk you through the Minneapolis market for real estate investing. We're focusing today on A and B type properties. Most of the ones that we can pull that still have decent cash flow will be in the B as in boy type neighborhoods. So let's take a quick tour around. I'm going to start up here in the far north, and I'll make this map available as a shared function. Coon Rapids, Minnesota, and Blaine, Minnesota in the far north are a couple suburbs that, although they're a little bit out there, they still attract a lot of folks that can work in the city and commute back and forth. You'll see that the interstate system in the Twin Cities is actually pretty well organized. You can get around really easy. There's this giant circle that does a full loop around. It's the 494/694 loop, and it circles the entire Twin Cities, so you really can't get lost because eventually, if you bounce into one side or the other, you'll know that you're on the circle. There's one major interstate that splits the two cities in half, and it's known as 35. Interstate 35 enters from the south right here, literally goes all the way down to Texas, and then as it comes into Minneapolis and St. Paul, it splits right here by Burnsville. 35E goes up to St. Paul, Minnesota. 35W goes up to Minneapolis, Minnesota. And then as soon as 35 gets through both cities, it joins again up here in the north, and it goes up to almost to Canada. So those are your major street landmarkers. Anything that's around this loop it's pretty much a suburb. And the suburbs, for the most part, are really nice, good quality properties, B or better in most cases. Cruising down a little bit, so we covered Blaine and Coon Rapids. Cruising down a little bit is a city called Fridley. Fridley houses the first ever Target distribution center. So there's a pretty strong employment base here, and there's a few other factories that employ people as well. Columbia Heights also has some good B properties. There's some C properties in here too, but you can get some good Bs. And then a little bit south of there in northeast Minneapolis, this is the University of Minnesota area. So you get a lot of professors that live in here mixed with some students. All of this little corridor is pretty good. Now, we'll jump a little bit west of here, and I just want to touch on Brooklyn Center and Brooklyn Park. Brooklyn Center, I own some houses in, and it's pretty good for the most part. You just have to be careful on where you're buying. If you get too far to the north, you hit Brooklyn Park. Brooklyn Park has some good areas and some mixed areas. Now, Target actually has a headquarters that's in downtown Minneapolis, but Target bought some land probably 7 to 10 years ago in Brooklyn Park, and they're building their headquarters up there, and they've started to move some of their team members up there. Now, I don't think they're ever planning to vacate their downtown building, but they already have started moving some of their team members up to this Brooklyn Park campus. So it's another opportunity for investments. There's a lot of folks that have moved up there that have higher paying jobs. Coming over here to the west, we have Maple Grove, Crystal. This whole area is really good. Most of Maple Grove in a city called Plymouth are A-type neighborhoods. Awesome, great places to invest if you can get properties cheap enough in there. It's hard to get properties cheap in there, so the ones that are Bs, we're going to go after. Osseo might offer us some of those. It's a little bit older neighborhood, but still gets the credit for Maple Grove, and it's right next to Maple Grove schools. Crystal, kind of the same feeling. I love that area. We'll take as many as we can. Golden Valley, same feel. We'll take as many as we can get in there. St. Louis Park, a little bit south of there, is getting into some of the more A-type neighborhoods. We have been able to buy some of the smaller houses in St. Louis Park. We bought a little one-bedroom, worked out really well. Cash-on-cash return was really nice. We got some two-bedrooms in there as well. Skipping over towards the east, back into Minneapolis, we have the Lake Calhoun area. There's Calhoun Isles, there's Lake of the Isles, and then there's another one, Lake Harriet. These three lakes right here, if there's any properties right around it, they're like A pluses. Hard to get cash flow out of them, but great area. If you go about 3 to 5 miles east of there, up to the Hiawatha light rail line, we're going to get some properties here in South Minneapolis that are nice in this Powderhorn area that will work for cash flow, and they'll be good, safe B kind of areas. Going a little bit further south, we hit Richfield. Richfield's a great area. We will get some properties there. It's also very close to the airport where most people fly in. This airport region also has the Mall of America just here on the south side. It's a city called Bloomington. Technically, all of this is Bloomington down here. Slightly to the west of Richfield is Edina. Edina's A+. It's the ritziest city in the Twin Cities area that's right inside the loop. Out here in the west, from Minnetonka, Wayzata, all this lake region, these are all A-type properties. My wife and I, our personal home we have is in Medina, Minnesota, which is right up here. All this stuff is really nice. We won't get a lot of properties there, but when we do get them, like for example, we have 2 houses that are in Maple Plain right here. They're in the same school district as Medina, which is Orono Schools, second best school district in the Twin Cities area. When we can get those ones, we definitely take them. They're just a little harder to get. Over here on the east side, we can't forget about St. Paul. St. Paul is the twin city of Minneapolis. Also has some really good areas. West St. Paul down here is one of them. West St. Paul is great. And then there's another city right here too that's called South St. Paul. There it is. South St. Paul also has some good pockets. We walked a couple of those properties just this last week. We're taking a couple of them. We love that area when we can get stuff that's cheap enough. And then up in the north side, there is North St. Paul. We buy properties up here whenever we can. All good areas. So this is just a broad stroke of the Twin Cities area. There's a lot of pockets that are hit and miss in different areas, but for the most part, all the spots where you see those little red pegs that I added to the map are good areas that we target. Bad areas I can cover on different segments, but basically we avoid 2 pockets. One of them is in North Minneapolis that has a couple areas that are just a little diverse. Right here on the map where I'm pointing is called North Minneapolis. There's a radius in there that we typically don't buy in. And then over in St. Paul, it's East St. Paul, which would basically be about where 35E goes north, and then there is a street called Maryland Avenue. I want to zoom in a little bit to see if I can pick that up for you. Maryland, there's Maryland. Right in here, this whole little area in here, we're really careful. We like to get out and away. If you can buy up closer to these lakes, you're much better off. All right, that's a wrap for us here in Minneapolis. Feel free to reach out if you have any questions. Thanks.